Hey all, welcome back to week 11 of Game Engine Scripting. So I want to run through some of the material on Canvas and then talk a little bit about the final projects. So week 11, there's the overview, as with all the other online weeks, the videos here, and then there are a couple of assignments for this week. So we're picking up where we left off with the 2D platformer from last week, and there's an additional tutorial that goes through building out an animation system, showing you how the animation system in Unity works, and then hooking it up to the player, talking about update versus fixed update and why you should use fixed update, and also goes through adding jumping to the player controller. So go through that. There are instructions for submitting your work for that one. There's a thread here that's about how, as a game designer, your role is really as an educator. So when someone comes into your game world, you actually have to teach them how the game mechanics work, and lead them through it. And so watch and read through the materials here, share your own insights on games that do a good job of teaching the player. There is the final project, milestone 2, that's due, which is essentially the same thing you did for your midterm milestone. So playtest your game with anyone that you can safely playtest with. Move your feature list into your GitHub board, and then finish up your prototype for your final project. There's also a thread here for you to post your final game prototypes. So in this one, I want you to post an itch page. It doesn't have to be the final page that has all the bells and whistles of description and screenshot and video and all that. All this needs is a downloadable link, and it needs to be published and accessible. So next week, then, in groups, y'all will be playtesting everyone's prototypes, giving each other feedback before we head into the last week where you'll be finishing out your final version of your game. As always, you can Zoom with me, schedule a Zoom. I have slots available. And before we talk about the final game, quick plug to please fill out your course evals for this class. It opened on the 20th. And you can find them over in your sidebar under My Course Eval. These are really helpful for us as faculty to get feedback on the course, and also as a department for us as we're thinking about evolving our curriculum. So please fill those out. Thank you for doing that in advance. So now let's talk about the final project. I want to show you a couple of examples that demo what I mean by having multiple levels and having instructions in your game. So that's one of the key differentiators about what you're doing for your final project that's different from what you created for your midterm project. So let's pull up a few and look at them together. So this student did a great job of creating an instruction sequence that actually guides the player through mechanic by mechanic how things work. So you start off just learning how to move around and shoot, then you learn how to aim and pick up things, and keeps going in a few seconds, talks about how you can use those resources that you just picked up to build weapons to tackle a final boss in the game. So this is kind of like above and beyond, but really cool because it guides you through each mechanic one at a time, introduces them to the player in a safe environment where it's okay to fail, and then they're dumped from here into the full game where you have to use all of these to actually defeat the final boss. So let's kill this and check out another one. So this one was a first-person shooter parkour game, and so it does a great job of introducing to the player the mechanics and assuring that the player understands them before they can move forward. So here the instructions are literally embedded in the world. You know that they have learned how to jump by the time they've gotten past this. And then here, introduce double jump, introduce the ability to shoot. And once you've taken them through that tutorial and you know that they understand how to move and shoot, you can actually dump them into a world with a bit more challenge. And then introduce them to a next world with bigger challenge. So let's close this and check out one more. So we got a 2D game here. So this one starts off pretty easily with just like a single enemy that can be easily navigated around, and then quickly that kind of amps up of mixing two different types of movement types of enemies together, and then a third. So the idea here is to like slowly introduce the mechanics that you've built for the game as opposed to throwing them all at the player at once. And that is really the key for the final project. I'm not asking you to design essentially 3 separate mechanics, one in each scene. I want you to think about backwards design. So you design your final level of your game, that third level that's the most interesting, the most challenging, whatever catches your fancy in terms of game design. And then you work backwards from there, paring away mechanics to design the second level and the first level. And think about introducing things as an educator where you are showing someone a mechanic, making sure they learned it before you move on to the next mechanic in your game. So with all that, I will see you next week. Good luck, and reach out if you need help.